Hey, so amazing. You see how they playing? Live wire, it's all about sports and entertainment. You don't wanna miss it, so official like you never seen. Keep it going till the whistle blowing from the referee. Everything from highlights and stats. You know that we gotta run it back, whether on the field or the court. You know that this is where it's at. Subscribe, no delaying. This is Live Wire, sports and entertainment. Let's go.
All right, guys. So I have another treat for y'all this afternoon. Y'all might know this guy very, very well. His name is Rudy for Come On podcast and also Rudy's Rants. And you also probably see him do some lives with Ben Daniels also. So my man Rudy, great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I love that intro, man. That was dope.
All right, thank you.
Did you make that yourself?
Yeah, I had somebody made it. I think like 2 years ago. I'm trying to get it upgraded, change it a little bit, but I mean, I like it. I'm scared to mess with it though.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. So, as everybody has suspected, yesterday was the big day. We was all waiting to find out if the Indiana Fever was going to hire a new coach, if it was going to be Stephanie White. Some thought it was going to be Lisa Bluder. Some thought that because they saw a picture of Kurt Miller with his son, who lives in Indiana, thought that things might be changed. But I never wavered my feelings. I always knew from the jump. Ever since I was, I think, got word that Stephanie White was in the mix. So I figured she was from that area. So me personally, I'm pretty pleased with the hire. Tell me what you think about it.
I'm very pleased. I mean, it was what I expected when they finally started, when the word was that Stephanie White was going to leave Connecticut. She's not leaving Connecticut unless she has a deal in place. It wouldn't have made any sense. It wouldn't have made sense to me to leave unless you have a deal in place. I mean, you're not going to just go quit a job and they could say that they've parted ways. Yeah, she quit. She quit. Yeah. She had a deal in place. And I guess, for whatever reason, Indiana had to wait a few days to announce it. But yeah, I presume that once she left Connecticut, it was a wrap. And it's a great hire. I know I've seen some comments of folks on Facebook on some different Caitlin Clark groups who are not a fan, and I don't really know why. I can't speak because I don't have the decade of women's basketball experience and knowledge for that. But she was part of winning staffs at Indiana. She was a head coach. She did a pretty good job there. She's been fabulous at Connecticut. You can't argue with the results. I mean, I know at Vanderbilt it didn't look good, but college basketball is different. Recruiting is different, and all those things are different. So yeah, no, I think she's in it. I think she fits. I mean, you look at her; she herself is 5'9", 155.
Yeah,
44% shooter from three as a senior at Purdue, 20 points per game. Dude, she's a guard who can help this guard, Caitlin Clark, maximize, because I mean, we saw what Caitlin did the second half of the season when Christy Sides finally got the hell out the way, although she tried to slow her down for the first 15 or 20 games, and then her teammates really started trusting her and stuff like that. I mean, that was a combination of trusting the teammates trusting her and so forth, but Christy Sides tried to cripple Caitlin Clark that first half of the year. It was ridiculous. And I think you're going to have a very exciting team. I think you have a very exciting team that will never stop running.
Oh, most definitely. Because a lot of people look at how Stephanie White coached Connecticut and say, oh, well, we need to run. She coached a slow-paced team. But you got to adapt to the players that you have. If you look at Alyssa Thomas, she's been in the league 11 years. She got 2 bad shoulders. She doesn't shoot well. She only know how to play bully ball by running into you like how I guess she took notes from LeBron James. Then you got DeWanna Bonner, who's like, I call her the female Slim Reaper, like KD. Then you got Dejanay Carrington. That's not really a scorer. She gets her buckets in different ways. She's not really a person you want to keep the ball in their hand. Then you look at Brianna Jones, she
Hmm.
had Achilles issues, so she can't run up and down the floor. So you have to adapt to how you want your team to play. And I always, when the couple of videos that I have done, I went back to where I showed a clip where Stephanie White coached Tamika Catchings, and they had size, but they was also fast and play defense too. So she knows how to adapt and play the same style. If you look at her when she was with Purdue, they play that same way also. So I just think that when you coaching a team, it's just any team, football, basketball, whatever, you have to adapt to the personnel that you have. You can't just go out there and say, "Oh, we're gonna be like the Golden State Warriors and just run up and down the shoot all over the field. I mean, all over the court, and then you got players that slow. It just don't work. It doesn't mix that way. I think now on one point I did where you said that you didn't understand why that some FIFA fans wasn't they didn't like the hire with Stephanie White. It's because it's a I think at the end the series between them and Alyssa Thomas, they was talking about the racism and all of that stuff, and I think they had the reporter asked Stephanie White, and she didn't she just said it was trolls and all of this other stuff. And I think a lot of people got salty on that because they accused her allowing her players to abuse Caitlin Clark or do the stuff that they have done. But I also rebuttal and caution that because you got a president that is on the Olympic Committee, and then you have a GM that you really don't get along with. So you have to waver how you handle certain issues in the media where you don't want to get blackballed by your own team and all of that stuff like that. So you have to play the ropes because even though she likes Caitlin, but you can't go out there and just say, oh yeah, it's not the FIFA fans and this and that, and then all of a sudden your whole organization turn against you. So
Of course. I mean, that's for anyone to be salty about that, that's just silly because she's coaching Connecticut.
mhm.
She's the Connecticut coach. Like, what do people expect for her to do? Do people expect for her to go after Dejanay Carrington for the eye gouge? Of course not. She shouldn't. She's her player. I mean, Alyssa Thomas is going to say what she says. That's her player at the time. Heck, I
Mhm.
mean, if you look at it, she could be offended herself by that comment by her player, being that she's from Indiana, went to Purdue, was a Miss Indiana basketball player in
Mhm.
1995. That's her home state. And she has her own players saying this. But what can she do? Can she get on in a press conference and say Alyssa Thomas is an asshole or whatever? Like you can't. You gotta let them say what they say, and maybe they had conversations in the background. Like you need to like really that's not cool. But it doesn't even matter. You can't you can't not support your players publicly. Like you can't. And I don't have a problem with if I'm playing Caitlin Clark, I'm trying to bully her. Like that's
Mhm.
their style of play. They don't have
Yeah.
talent. Connecticut, like people, I've had the debate where people think that Connecticut was so talented. No, they weren't. They were just physical as hell and tough
Mhm.
as hell, and they played damn good defense. Alyssa Thomas is a bully, like you said, like a LeBron James, a bully ball type of player. DeWanna Bonner stands out and shoots threes. DJ Cannon is going to do all that dirty ass work. Marina
Mhm.
Mabry was a big time pickup for them who could hit jump shots, and on top of that, she became a bit of a dirty player herself and how she
Yeah.
carried herself. But you know what? It worked for them. And I'm not going to be mad at it if I'm a kinetic. I can't. Yeah, if I'm cheering for Caitlin Clark, I don't like it. But
Yeah.
what is she supposed to do? Okay, let's just let Caitlin run around free and light us the hell up. No, put her on her ass, make her feel
Yeah.
you. And that's the
There
same way the Detroit Pistons treated Michael Jordan. That's the
there you
same way
go.
people try to treat LeBron James. You have to make him feel you. Like if LeBron played in the 1990s, early 2000s, he did play in the early 2000s, but really the 90s, I
Mhm.
still think he'd be very successful, but he'd be very, very unhappy being put on his ass every single time he goes to the rim.
Yeah.
So I don't know what people expect. I mean, if Caitlin Clark wasn't playing for Indiana and played for Connecticut, and you're an Indiana fan, would you not want Indiana to try to bang Caitlin Clark around? I mean, that's what Steph Curry's dealt with for 15 years. People try
Hmm.
to bang him. I mean, that's the only way you can take him off his spot. I mean, that's just the way basketball is. I mean, now she's going to have her on her team, and now she's also probably going to look for an enforcer, I would hope, if
Yeah.
someone does try to bang on her again like this. Not to mention, I expect Caitlin Clark to come back stronger, which is also why I don't want her touching that stupid unrivaled league. Get away from
Yeah.
that garbage. Please don't do it, because that takes away from your time in getting ready for next basketball season, where you're lifting and getting stronger and getting better. She's not going to
Hmm.
get better playing bullshit basketball in a 3-on-3 condensed garbage can. Like, that's
No.
silly. It doesn't make you better. That actually creates bad habits. And
Yeah.
that's why that whole thing is corny to me, because it's not basketball. It creates really bad habits, a league like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I anyone that's salty with Stephanie White, and you coach your players that you have. I'm a Dolphins fan. Don Shula was a running coach for the 70s,
Hmm.
early 80s. Here comes Dan Marino. What am I going to do? Hand the ball off 45 times a game? No, I'm going to give Dan Marino the rock and he's going to chuck that damn thing. Like,
Yeah.
are the Kansas City, is Andy Reid going to say, hey, Patrick Mahomes, hand it off 35 times a game? We don't need you to throw. We don't want you to throw. You coach the talent that you have. And that's what makes great coaches great coaches. And I'm sure she'll also figure out how to incorporate a zone defense, which Christie Sites completely failed at doing.
Oh yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you because the thing I go back to, I just tell people, I say, just do your a deep research on Stephanie White. She never coached that way. She never played that way. So you are a product of the environment that you have, because if your president and your GM is handcuffing you for doing certain things or disciplining and everything, you just can't do it. You ain't. It's not like Bill Belichick. How Bill Belichick held his team accountable. Tom Brady doing. It's the Patriots way, whatever the case might be. But I
Mhm.
think that with Stephanie White having this fond relationship with Caitlin Clark, knowing Caitlin Clark's game from when she was 8 years old up to now, and calling games in the Big Ten, there was a clip that was she literally said how you defend Caitlin Clark is because you have to be physical with her. You can't do that. And this is one of Caitlin Clark college games she was talking about. So she knew what a lot of coaches in the W didn't know. She knew how to defend Caitlin Clark. So
Mhm.
that's why Connecticut was more successful against the Fever in the season, because she knew how to deal with her. If Stephanie White was another coach, I'm sure the Fever would have had great success against them early in the season. But Stephanie White knows how to deal with them. So, I mean, deal with Caitlin Clark, and then that's how it was presented. But I don't think she doesn't feel like she hates Caitlin Clark and all of that stuff, because you listen to her, how much admiration that the two have for each other. And and if Caitlin Clark signs off on it and loves her, especially a coach that has a same high IQ as she does, what we gonna do about it? We gonna well, we gotta fire her? No, because Caitlin is the one that say, hey, this is who I want. You know. So I
Yeah, I
go
agree.
ahead.
I agree with you. I mean, if it remember the first game they played that year was against Connecticut, and that was the game she had 10 turnovers, the first game of the year.
Yep.
They knew what they needed to do because they had a coach who knew who she was. They knew what they had to do, and they got it done. I'll never fault someone for doing whatever you have to do to win. And I don't. Again, I mean, I see one comment here. It was like they played dirty because they lack the skill. Exactly, but that's how.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. They play that. They play a physical. You may call it dirty. Other people call it physical. And then that's how they play. And I do. It's the unrivaled camp, unrivaled basketball. It doesn't create good habits though. You're playing a 70-foot court. That doesn't create habits. That shit is not going to create is not a real basketball environment. They can put all the massage tables they want and and all that nonsense and make whatever reality show they want, but it's not going to help Caitlin Clark specifically get to where she wants to be.
Hmm.
I mean, I just don't see it. And I would want to be as far away from my competition as I could. I don't want them to see me. They're going to see me come May of 2025.
Yeah.
When I'm 165 pounds, I added 10 pounds of muscle to my body. I got a floater that's going to murder your asses,
Mhm.
take you out with that floater, and you're going to see a much better player. I mean, that's my feeling. I mean, I just think that people get too sensitive about stuff like when you. I live in a world of being constructively critical, and I can be constructively critical of Caitlin Clark, of
Yeah.
anybody. I mean, it's like I'm a Hurricane fan, and yeah, Miami might win by 22 today, but they look like dog doo doo in the first half of that game. You know,
Exactly.
Caitlin Clark had games where she looked bad. For quite a bit of time. I think there was one game where 3 quarters. I forget which game was, the Mystics game, where she
Hmm.
looked awful for 3 quarters, and in the fourth quarter she went off. It was one of these games,
Yeah.
and it's like I can call it what it is, and I can be constructively critical, and people just shouldn't be sensitive about it because like this is sports. It's like we've turned into this society, and the WNBA really drives me crazy because I'm sure you might see it at times. I see it a
Yeah.
lot. You're criticizing women. Well, they're playing professional sports. You either want the publicity, you want the attention, or you don't. You don't just get daisies and lilies and roses when you're doing well, but nothing when you're doing terribly. You get both. And that's one thing that WNBA players have failed to understand, accept that with attention comes criticism. So now everyone sees your 2 for 16 game, Alyssa Thomas.
Yeah.
Now everyone sees that. It wasn't just the 12 people that were watching last year. You're like, everyone sees it now, and people are gonna have a comment about it. And if you can't take it, so be it. But don't make up stories and call an entire team's fan base racist because they said you suck. I mean, it's like, give me a break, or turn
Yeah.
your social media off if you're getting nasty comments, because I've said it before, LeBron James probably gets more nasty comments than anyone on this planet, and he's been dealing with it for 20 years, and you've never heard him say a word about that stuff. And I'm sure Caitlyn was hit with tons of negative comments from the people that don't like her. Never heard a word about it.
Yeah. And to that fact is that I understand that Unrivaled signed Lexi and Aaliyah Boston. I just wish they had, and I know they want to play basketball and stuff like that. So maybe Aaliyah Boston, she wants to be able to run more. So maybe that will help her. But I don't know. I just don't. I don't want them to get injured before the season starts. That's just my take. I just wish none of the Fever players play in Unrivaled. Just stay away from it. Wait to a whole another season for you to decide. Say I give it a try because now we got a new coach. I want to put all my attention, train, work out, whatever. Then you brush up my skills, whatever you need to do, because it's going now that the games are going to be 4 more games longer, 44 games. You got a expansion
Mhm.
team coming in. You got free agency about to come around the corner, and there's going to be so many different elements there to contend with. So that's just my perspective on it. I don't think she's going to play on Rival. I said it before. I just think they're trying to pull all the tricks out of the hat and see if they could get core her in there. And once they figure that she's not going to play, then they'll probably just move on and not mention it no more and just go on with the teams and just find some other replacements, because you went from 30 to 36. How much more money you going to get from sponsors just to try to get Caitlin Clark in there, and you're not even giving her no more money? $1 million. She got the $1 million laying under her mattress somewhere. You just
Yeah.
you don't need she don't need $1 million. You just need her marketing ability, and that's just my
Hmm.
point. This is how I feel about it. I never was a Breonna Stewart fan because I don't just a Connecticut Gino Auriemma just hurts me. I just never liked him because I used to be a huge Pat Summitt fan with Tennessee,
Okay, yeah.
and I just didn't like him. I just his arrogance just irritates me. Now I don't have no person problem with Nafisa Carter because she's to me I feel like she's a different breed of UConn player. You know, she carries
Mhm.
herself in a whole different way. She don't carry herself with the arrogance of like a Don Taurasi, Breonna Stewart, and you know whoever else is there. I just think that they Breonna Stewart, she didn't want to acknowledge Caitlin Clark or what she brought to the W in the beginning, but then all of a sudden y'all want to have this CBA battle because y'all want more money when y'all got more money the first time around, and okay, well, since y'all ain't gonna do what do for us this time, well, I'm gonna create my own league, and then I'm gonna pull the players from over there. But then you looking like, well, I'm gonna pull the main person from over there. But when you can't pull that main person, it's gonna make you look even foolish than you already are, and then you're gonna sit there and be like wondering, like, dang, you're gonna even hate her more because if she did join a rival, it's not gonna make anything any better. You know, you're gonna have the same envy people under the same roof hating on her, you know, and then what y'all gonna do? Downplay? Well, oh, you know, we knew this league was gonna take off, and you know, Clay Allen brought a different element to it, but you're not gonna give her credit for it. It's the same thing.
Mhm.
So it's best for her to not even be a part of it. Just deal with the WNBA, and I think the WNBA now, I think they know that they're gonna have to go into season 2 with Caitlin Clark and put her more to the forefront when it comes to more marketing and more exposure because she carried the league in for season 1. She's going to be carrying this league in seasons in and out, and then especially if Stephanie White and ownership put a championship team together and they stop making major runs like how Minnesota Lynx did, and Caitlin wins a couple of chips on her shoulder, you really not gonna like her then. If you don't like her now, why? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You definitely gonna like her then. So my thing is this: here is that at the end of the day, she just needs to stay away from that unrivaled and just focus on her craft, do what she's doing, play golf, and then when the season comes, just practice, find something to do, in the meantime. Um, I definitely want to pick your brain on something. Also, is that now that Stephanie White has hired is hired there, who would you want to go after free agent wise to help fill some spots?
I mean, there's a number of players that they should be looking at. They need a legitimate enforcer. And now I don't know who that enforcer level person would be, but I do know that you need to be look. First off, they need a okay. You got Caitlin, you got Kelsey, you got Leah. You need a legitimate 3. You need a real 3. And you need a 4. So I don't want. I mean, it might sound crazy, but I think the comedy would be if you bring over Alyssa Thomas. She's a free agent, and people will say, "Oh, she did all that stuff." People say stuff, and then when they're given an opportunity, they change their tune. She would be someone that would be helpful to that team. And she's a bully. So that would be a helpful person to be on the team. Now, is that the person that they want to bring over because of things she said? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I mean, there are players that have said they don't want to play somewhere, and then they go play there in all sports. You know how it goes. Whether in,
Yeah,
in men's sports, where they said, "I'll never play there," and then here's the check, and they're playing. You know, so I find when these women, they act way too emotionally. Um, in a response to you don't put someone toxic like that. See, that person's only toxic to you because they played against you. Because Dennis Rodman played against the Bulls, and then he became a Bull. So and anyone on earth would say that Dennis Rodman was considered a toxic player. His attitude, people had a hard time dealing with him. He was mentally deranged. But when he
mm-hmm.
was on your team, you loved him. So I just think that it's easy to say someone's toxic. Now, it just I think Tina Charles would be a great pickup for them, and I
I
know
like
that
her. I like Tina Charles. I
I
think
think she'd be a great pickup because she's good around. I mean, obviously she's good around the basket. I don't even she wouldn't even have to start. She could come off the bench, and it would be a legitimate backup and she won't cost that much.
no.
It would be very helpful to have someone like her come off the bench because Aaliyah Boston, you already know, is going to get in foul trouble. It's what she does. I think the unrivaled thing could help her because she needs to drop 15 pounds
Yeah.
and get faster, probably. Um, Tina Charles is one that I've looked. Obviously, Sabali out of Dallas would be a humongous pickup.
Oh yeah,
You know,
definitely.
that's the perfect pickup for them because she'd play the three and she would be, I mean, God, she would open so much up for them. And that would
She's.
honestly go ahead.
Oh no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
She could play the three or the four potentially,
Mm,
but what that would also do is if she's playing the three, it allows you to bring Lexi Hull off the bench. Lexi
mm-hmm.
Hull's not a starter. We know this. She started because they had no one else to start, and Samuelson was awful,
Yeah.
and the other ones were awful. So you could then bring Lexi Hull off the bench the way she should be playing off the bench, and so those are a couple. Um, those are the three that come to my mind. I mean, look, we have to be real. All of Connecticut's team is a free agent now, pretty much. And you know that wherever Alyssa Thomas goes, if Dewana Bonner doesn't retire, she's probably looking to go to the same place.
Yeah, but
I'm thinking.
don't
Um,
think that the Connecticut is going to allow them to leave. I think they're all going to get core. They're going to all be there because Dejonaire is an unrestricted free agent, so she's not going to go nowhere because whoever offer her contract, they're going to have the right to
no,
match it.
she's restricted, but the other ones
Yeah,
are not. The other ones
and
are unrestricted free agents.
yeah, and that's why I think they not going to go nowhere, even though they free agents. I think they're going to all get core back, sign back for probably one more year. Until that new CBA kick in or whatever the case might be. Um, I
I'm sorry, you mentioned something about the unrivaled thing with Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark doesn't need the money. These
yeah,
players are doing this because they need the money. We could
yeah,
keep it real. This keeps them from having to fly to Europe to live in Europe for the next 5-6 months. That's what this league was created for. They want to find a way to stay in this country and not have to leave. And that's a big thing for them. They don't want to leave. So
mm-hmm.
they'll come up with anything to not leave. I think I'm looking here right now. Natasha Howard out of Dallas, good player. She could be a pickup for them. She's 33 years old. She's a good player. She'd be a
Yeah,
pickup that I'd look at. Heck, I'd be looking at Nneka Ogwumike if she wants to continue to play because she's getting up there as well.
yeah.
Um, you know, the,
Adrian Ross, she mentioned that on my last live about Neko Gumake.
she'd be a four, and she's a quality four. And of course I've
And
talked about
she do run the floor pretty well.
yeah. I mean and then you have Izzy Harrison out of Chicago, who I like a lot. But
Oh yeah, that's who I had in my mind.
yeah,
That's
Izzy
who.
Harrison is another one. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a lot of players. I'm looking at the list right now that could be pickups. But they made that league in order to not go to Europe.
yeah.
It's not a league that's going to make. That's what it's for. And I'm not so much worried about injuries, other than the fact that if they weren't playing there, they're playing Europe. The thing is, Caitlin Clark doesn't
Mm-hmm.
need it. And I'm
Yeah,
surprised that Angel Reese is doing it. Like I thought she'd be more worried. Maybe she's doing it for content because, I thought she'd be more worried about what her next outfit's going to be or what
yeah,
or her next podcast. And if she's going to interview another 17-year-old boy, like she just did with Carmelo's son, which I find very, very creepy.
yeah.
Um, she went from interviewing Shaq, who is clearly creepy and commenting way too much about her looks and apparently very much in her phone, as she just posted on social media
Yeah,
yesterday or today or whatever it was. That was tremendously creepy. He's talking about how she looked in her shorts, which I thought was sick. Like,
yeah,
you're over 50. She's 22. Like, that's sick perv shit.
yeah.
And then, but now you have her talking about who Cayenne Anthony needs to watch out for. Yeah, people like you. Like,
I,
why are you interviewing a 17-year-old boy? That's
it's just
weird.
like my thing about her podcast is always a Caitlin Clark topic. It's never about anything else.
Of
Every
course,
episode was like
everyone.
Caitlin Clark. I want to go back on something real quick because
Yeah.
I did a video and I was talking about some free agents and I was going to do I'm going to do another one. I would love to see Izzy Harris because I watched her game. I like how she runs the floor. She's very
Mhm.
crafty. She did give Aaliyah Boston some trouble when she was able to start a little bit of play. And if you have, and I know that Kelly, the president for the Fevers, they want to be a little bit bigger in the front and they want to be able to run. And I think Sabali and Izzy will be the perfect two to start along Caitlin and Boston plus um, Mitchell, and that will give the team a great outlet because then what would it do? You'll be able to compete against teams like the Minnesota Lynx that has that stretch four positions, and then you could cover the 3 point better because you have length and size, and then Caitlin and Mitchell easy could do that pick and roll cut backdoor type of thing because you have their bigs stretched out playing the bigs, and plus Satu, she's very crafty. She could shoot the three very well, and she's a great passer. So you get that mix, and then all you got to do is fill the roster with backups. I think they're gonna pull some people from overseas too. I really think that they're gonna look at the W and they're gonna get who they need, and then I think they're gonna pull some players from overseas to fill the bench part, and they probably gonna they might keep Grace and then Victoria Saxon, but I think Katie Lou's gonna be gone. They might bring Timmy back. Might bring Timmy back. I think Dantes. I don't know. She's still got one more year on her contract, so I don't know how they're gonna play that out. But I know Sophie Cunningham. She wants to play with Caitlin Clark. She made it known.
She does.
I wish she didn't sign that 1 year contract, but they could still figure out to get trade for her. Or if they have to make a trade to get Satu, then I don't see them making a trade to get Sophia. I think they'll wait till the following year till she's completely a free agent, then get her out there. And Marina, actually, the following year too, Marina Mabry is a free agent. She's only got 1 more year left. So there's options for the Fever to really keep it rolling and add pieces there because we already know everybody's going to want to play for the Indiana Fever. That's going to be the hot destination spot right now, especially going into the season. And if they fill that roster and say they have other pieces that they want to fill later on or down the line during the season, then that's fine, But I said it before. I will not be surprised if Indiana ends up in the finals next year.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised either. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they won the championship because
Yeah,
this is a team that went from 13-27 to 20-20, and we saw how many games they probably should have won. I can't truly speak on players from Europe because I don't know who they are. I mean, I'm not going to bullshit you here. I don't know who they are. So,
yeah,
I know there's a few that played in the Olympics that I saw that I know that I vaguely know, but I still like Erica Wheeler. I would like them to bring her back. I just think she's a good presence for Caitlin Clark. I think we learned that as
yeah,
the season went on. And now if you have to bring her back for like 80 grand, not 222, like that's not no chance in hell. But there are players that every player wants to play with Caitlin Clark. I don't care what anyone says. If they
hmm
say differently, they're lying. And it's nonsense, but you have to have players that are going to run the floor. If you're not willing to run, you don't belong. You have to
hmm
run. You have to be in tip top shape. I hope Stephanie. The problem that the WNBA has is that they literally run these women from college basketball ending the first week of April to the
hmm
draft 2 or 3 weeks later, and they're in camp, and their camp lasts 2 weeks, and a lot of them are not in shape. Like they're
yeah,
not in shape yet. They don't get. I think they get like 2 preseason games, so they're not in basketball shape yet. Their season's too short to spend the first 10 games getting in shape. So whoever comes has to be in shape, and White has to run them into the ground. Like if you played sports when you were younger, I mean, the coach that made you puke in practice, those are the ones that get you in shape. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
puking your ass off in practice because it really drove me crazy when Indiana would like the two Phoenix games, they're up 30 or 28 or whatever, and they blow both leads because they go from running to walking.
Yeah.
And that might be a combination of fatigue or Christie sides or both. And the only person that can run nonstop is Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
So you need players that are going to run the floor. Izzy Harrison runs the floor. You need those players who are going to be. I mean, because let's be real, when this team was most effective, they're getting layups.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting layups. What killed me as that season went on was the things that Indiana was doing with Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin, and she's getting layup drills. It stopped happening. They stopped running the pick and roll.
Yeah.
It became a pick and pop. First of all, Leah Boston can't shoot, so why the hell are you popping? You need to roll every time, and she wasn't sprinting the floor.
Definitely
So,
not.
and then I mean, Ben Daniel likes to talk about this, but when she put that pink hair back in, she stopped playing well again. And I mean, that's what he says. So, it's just one of those things where Aaliyah, but they stopped that pick and roll was deadly. And then all of a sudden, Aaliyah Boston starts pick and popping every time, and the roll's not there anymore because you're not rolling. Like, why
Right.
aren't you rolling to the damn rim? You were getting layup drills on those types of things. Obviously, women have to make more layups, but that's another story for another day. But
Yeah.
you have to run the floor, period. You have to run the floor. And if you're not willing to run the floor, you don't belong in Indiana. But everyone wants to play for Indiana. And the fact that Brianna Stewart wouldn't acknowledge Caitlin when it started, and now she would suck her off to get her into her league. It just shows the hypocrisy of it because they all know. And they don't want to acknowledge, but they know
Yeah.
when she plays, it's 1.3 million watching average. And when she doesn't play, it's 394,000. Their numbers went down when she didn't play. And they can puff up them fake finals numbers where they were forcing men to watch the WNBA while watching Sunday night football
Yeah.
because and throw and the playoffs and all that and baseball playoffs. That was a scam. And that's, I'm going to guess, at least 500,000 viewers because there's no way you go from 1.2 million to
Yeah.
2.2 million in a week, like unless you do something like that, and before anyone says that baseball doesn't matter, baseball in a 4-1 series at 18.6 million in game 5, you
Oh
know,
yeah. Oh definitely. I
you
definitely.
know, and,
You
and
know
had it gone
how.
and had it gone 7, it might have done 30 million.
Yeah.
But the Yankees blew it and disappointed me. And
As a, yeah. I really don't like neither one of them. I'm a huge
yeah,
Braves fan, and
okay,
uh, they just need pitching. The Braves just need pitching. I
uh-huh.
think that. Now I do want to touch back on what you just said about Ben because he makes me laugh all the time because
Yeah,
when he got on Aaliyah Boston with that pink hair, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, and she took it out. She played so much better. And then she ended up trying to put it back in later on. And I was like, no, no, leave that alone. Leave that
mm-hmm.
alone. But I do think with the Erica Wheeler situation, I think they could probably offer her like some kind of advisor role, coaching advisor, like a mentor to,
Yeah,
with Caitlin. I think she had, she's been with the team, but her contract is really heavy, and I'm glad it's coming off the books because we could be able to pay somebody like to get Satu, and we also could pay Kelsey, keep her on the fold, and then use that money because for what I've heard, the Fever do got a lot of money, especially
mm-hmm.
with Wheeler and I think somebody else money coming off the book. I am so glad though, because I don't know if you remember, but early in the season when Lindell was talking about giving Christy Sides an extension, I was like, no. I was like, no. If she does that, this team is never ever going to be achieve what it was going to. And I was like, And then once I think the owner with the fever, he realized what he had with Caitlin Clark, and
Mhm.
he was like, "Nah, we can't go in the second season like that." And I understand people defending Chrissy size, and I get it, but this is a business. We seen it. We see how coaches get dropped just in the middle season of their first year in the
Yep.
NBA,
Yep.
and we see it in NFL. Look at the Carolina Panthers. They be firing their coaches left and right and still have to pay them money at the end of the year. So this is professional sports. This is not a daycare where you have to like, okay, well, we got you to the playoffs, but then at the end of the day, you work to keeping your job because you got something going on. No, because every coach in the league, every player in the league knew Chrissy Size can coach. So why would they
Yep.
even think about coming over there to play? Yeah, y'all got Caitlin and Leah and Mitchell, but I'm still not coming over there because y'all coach don't know how to coach. And then you gonna wear Caitlin, Aaliyah out, wear their youth out before they even get in their prime, and then they won't be no good. And then guess
Yep.
what? It'll be too late to try to make a run for a championship then because then Caitlin will get more criticism like, well, you couldn't win, and you had this team, whatever. You know the storyline. It'll continue to revolve around whatever it is.
Yep.
And Angela Z23 said, "This is a business. It's okay to be a cutthroat. People invest serious money into these franchises, and championships are the
Absolutely.
goal." I agree, totally, 100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's how
I
you have to play it.
it is exhausting how the WNBA operates. The WNBA operates in a different format. Like their style, their entire approach and attitude is different. They they sit here and they don't understand. They'll complain about not having attention, then they get the attention and they don't get the attention the way they want the attention to be, or they don't want to acknowledge who generated the attention, and then
Mm-hmm.
they'll sit here and make all kinds of nonsensical statements and say, oh, people were starting to watch. No, no, they weren't. Most people didn't know any of your names, and you one person generated tons of attention for you, and you're jealous and you're
Yeah,
hating on her and you don't like it because it's not you who generated the attention. Like there's been Caitlin Clarks before Caitlin Clark.
yeah,
There's been the white girl who came in who they thought would be the one that brings attention, and Sabrina failed, Kelsey Plum failed, Brianna Stewart failed, Elena Deladon failed. Like there's been player after player. Heck, Diana Taurasi failed. She might have won, but nobody watched. And at the end of the day, you need someone that's somewhat likable, and those women are not for the most part. They come across like attitudes, they come across bitter, and
mm-hmm.
you have someone who's just out there to hoop, who's clearly friendly, who had so many opportunities to take shots at these ladies. She never did. She never, not one time, said a negative word about any player in that league last year. And she could have.
Exactly.
I would have. I mean, how much abuse can you take? And I think that actually endeared her more to people. It actually
Oh
made her
yeah.
more, you appreciated her more because she didn't entertain the back and forth with those players. She just went out there and hooped. And, when it comes down to it, Caitlin Clark, everybody wants to play with her. They want to beg her to come play in the Unrivaled League after basically saying she isn't the reason why people watch the WNBA. She's the reason everything's happened in the WNBA. She's the reason that you got a gifted amount of money from that television deal from the NBA. It wasn't
Yep.
because of y'all, it's because of her. Like, acknowledge it. It's okay. I mean, I'm a WWE guy. Acknowledge me. Like, for Christ's sake, it's
Right.
okay. It's okay to acknowledge somebody and say, look, I mean, is anyone going to sit here and say that Michael Jordan wasn't the reason that people were watching the NBA in the early 90s? Like, are people going to say that Magic and Bird weren't the reason that people were watching the NBA in the 80s? You
Mm-hmm.
just acknowledge what it is, and it's okay. You can jump on the wave and get paid. And they choose not to. They choose to be bitter Betties, and it's tired. So when you want to offer me, if the offer from Unrivaled does not start with a 2 and a 0 with 6 more zeros after it, don't call me.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
talking $20 million
yeah,
because, and that check needs to be paid before the league starts, not during, because the league will go bankrupt and broke. Equity of what? What equity are you giving her? A league of no, there's no, it's not, there's no value to the league.
right.
A non-profitable league? Like, come on. TNT basically owns. How do you have a league that now has every player getting equity in the league? Because that's what they say. Every player gets equity.
Yeah,
So if I have 100% and you have 36 players, is it 1%? Is it half a percent? Is it a
yeah.
quarter of a percent? How much is TNT asking for to give you free television? Because how much is TNT getting? I would think TNT owns the league by now. How much are the investors getting?
I to
Like
me,
equity of what? Because there won't be any profit.
exactly. I think TNT getting like an 80-20. they get
Absolutely.
they getting like they getting an 80-20 because there is no way in the
No way.
world, because what everybody gets equity, what, 1-2%? That's
But
like
but but of
that's
what?
like
I mean,
owning,
there's 100. What's left?
exactly, that's like owning a share stock into McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? Where
Mhm.
McDonald's got billions of chains and you got like probably 20, 30 employees work for each franchise, and you getting
Mhm.
stocks in it. That's only about 20, probably two, I'll say 2% you getting out of that league. Then you only playing 10 weeks. Then you under a whole hotel, whatever, Airbnb
Yeah.
for
Who the hell was?
being filmed while you not playing, walking around like it's a reality show. I mean, come on, it's like, and they, me personally, just stick to basketball. All that, this is what they're trying to be like. I just figured it out. They're trying to be like Hard Knocks.
Yeah. And I don't
Trying to
watch
be
Hard Knocks.
trying to be like Hard Knocks. But only thing, Hard Knocks operate in the all season and do all they filming. They want, this is what they want to do. They want to be the female version of the NFL Hard Knocks. Well, we're gonna all be together. We're gonna be kumbaya. We're gonna film everybody's day-to-day operation, and then you know it's gonna be some kind of drama that's gonna kick off. There's going to be, because knowing them women, and the one person that walks in there and she gets the mass majority of the shares that y'all think y'all deserve. Oh, they ain't gonna be like, well, I could hear um Andrea Carter and all of them, Monica McNutt, they all whining, complaining. Now they singing their tune. Oh, it should have been unanimous. Her rookie year should have been unanimous. But y'all wasn't saying that before. Y'all only saying it now because y'all know y'all favorite person lost. It was never close. It might seem close in the beginning,
Never.
but it was never
Never.
close at all.
Never
So
close.
I do want to touch on something real quick before we get ready to get up out of here. It's the
Mhm.
CBA,
Yeah.
and I have a real I feel like the CBA could, the WNBA could benefit a lot more if they implement like player development, like a G League, a women's G League. Help some of the women that don't get drafted, or some of the women that's playing in overseas that probably don't want to play and they want to just continue to develop. They could come over, participate in, probably 5 teams. You don't have to do as much as the NBA, and help them develop to be more skillful, especially layups. Because Melo just mentioned it in there. You like the layups is frustrating, and it is, because when you drive it to the basket, you just slinging the ball up and it bounces off. It doesn't make sense. Layups should be the most fundamental, easy thing that you should do, and shooting free throws. Because God knows half of these women can't shoot free throws. They can't shoot free throws. They can't make layups. They they can't dribble worth the crap either. It's like it's and I'm like, man, you only got a few of them in the league that really know how to dribble the basketball. And
Yeah.
and you see them run, and half of them run down the court. It's like, okay, I'm already tired. It's like, I'm like, come on, y'all supposed to y'all say y'all the best women athletes on earth. Then prove it. Stop trying to write narratives for yourself. My thing is, leave everything political to political. Just play basketball. Just if you want to make the league better, leave the nonsense alone. Play, elevate the game. It's enough of y'all to come together. Because I said it before, the likes of Breonna Stewart, the likes of DeWanna Bonner, the likes of Alyssa Thomas, Don Taurasi, Brittany Griner, all of them about to lead the league.
Mm-hmm.
This league is going to be completely run by the young generation coming behind Caitlin Clark and Caitlin Clark in the generation right now. And then what they're going to do, because when the league goes completely a run and gun league and you can't keep up with it, then what you're going to do? You're going to be like, oh, this is the new brand of basketball. Then you ain't gonna have no choice because like like they say Stephen Curry, they mad at Stephen Curry because we wasn't doing this before. Now he revolutionized the game. Now everybody wants to try shooting threes from the parking lot to the top of the arena and everything like that. So I want to get your thoughts on the CBA. What are your thoughts about what should they do or how should they go by making it work this time around?
Well, the first thing is I wouldn't have opted out of the CBA. That's the first thing I wouldn't have done. I think that they are playing with fire. If they even dare think about locks going on strike and not playing in 24 to fight to create, put it on the owners to make a deal now. I think that's a very dangerous thing to do. There's only a few people that can afford that, and you will have people crossing over real fast when they're making 80 grand a year, or 100 grand a year, and they're going to start crossing over real fast. It's been done before. I mean, we're in different leagues, but these players are being paid millions of dollars. These women overall, for the most part, aren't making anything outside of a few people. They're not making a whole lot of money. So in the grand scheme of things, so I think it's very dangerous. Now, they opted out. They're all basing it on numbers created by one person, and that's the problem. They decide to do that, and then they use metrics that were created by one player. You can't show that across the league. You show that across one player. And that's a problem to me. I mean, I don't know what they're asking. I mean, should they get a raise? Yeah, sure. Give them a raise. Okay.
Yeah.
How much of the raise? That's not for, I couldn't tell you. They haven't generated profit in 28 years. They just lost $40 million. They can talk about the new $200 million a year they're getting from television, but they're adding a team. That is expenses from that 200 million. So the more expenses that you create, if you raise the salaries, that 200 gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Because it's going to the teams, obviously. And I'm sure some of it I don't know how much goes to the teams, how much goes to the league. But the more you got that money, but now if you raise salaries, you do all these other things. I don't know what hotels these players stay in now. I don't know if they stay in if they stay in the 5-star stuff like the NBA players do, or they stay at the Marriott. Nothing wrong with the Marriott, but it's not the Four Seasons.
Yeah.
It's not the Ritz-Carlton. So are they going to start moving into nicer hotels again? You're crunching down the money. There was one thing about lifetime benefits. Like, I think that's outrageous. In what world do we live in where you have a job and I leave a job and I have benefits from that job for the rest of my life? This is professional sports. Like, I can actually understand it in the NFL because let's be real, most NFL players after their career is done, they don't have much to look to. And the damage to their bodies and their brains from smashing themselves into each other all the time, it causes a problem. But this is women's basketball. like when your career is over as a women's basketball player, you're gonna get a job somewhere. I don't know where it will be, but you're gonna get a
Yeah.
job because most of them, unlike the NBA, they graduate from college, they get degrees, they can actually do something where most of these NBA players they have the average NBA player at a certain point, they don't have any education, they don't have much, they don't have anything to, they have their money. I hope you invested it properly and didn't spend it all on bullshit.
Yeah.
But I think striking would be a huge mistake on their part.
Oh
I
yeah.
and if they threaten that, hey, good luck to you. But they all based that on one player. They based it on one player, and if they think all of a sudden the next year you're gonna have 1 million viewers a game in the regular season for the Washington Mystics against the Atlanta Dream, like you're dreaming. That won't happen,
Hmm.
and at a certain point, now there was something else I wanted to mention, but when you look at it from the style of play,
Yeah.
the NBA has changed the style of play. And the way the NBA is played today is utterly horrible, in my opinion. It's bad basketball.
Yeah.
And so when we looked at that one stretch of plays in game 5 in the fourth quarter where it was air ball, brick, air ball, turnover. The funny thing was, I saw that in week 1 of the NBA. And it was like, wow. It wasn't air balls, it was just bricks and turnovers, but I love Steph Curry,
Yeah.
but Steph Curry has absolutely damaged the NBA. And the reason I say that is because everyone thinks they can shoot and they can't. And I have this argument with Nick on my podcast all the time. Just because you are open doesn't make it a good shot. And if you're an NBA player and you're wide open, there's a reason you're wide open. Now, you might say, oh, I'm going to shoot it. But look what I mean, if you push that 3-point line back to 26 or 27 feet, you'll find
Hmm.
out just how good every shooter truly is. And they're
Yeah.
not good. They're not good. The game is played in it's bad basketball. It's sloppy. Defensively, it's bad. And and I think that now they're trying. Caitlin has brought that to the WNBA, but the skill level by the other players is not there to do that. You're
No.
going to need players that are in high school right now to be working on that stuff. And we have to remember this: WNBA basketball is an inch smaller. So
Oh yeah.
the fact that they miss so many layups, it just shows you how unskilled they are
I
because they're
know.
missing with a smaller ball on the same size rim as the men's game. So
Can
you
you
have
imagine if they had
like,
the regular size?
bro, if they have the regular size, the women's people. This is where I laugh at what people say when they mention how great the WNBA is. If they play with a men's ball, the shooting percentages in the WNBA would be in the 30s, in the low 30s, in fact. You'd have teams shooting 35%. The average team in the WNBA shoots about 42%, between
Hmm.
40 and 42% with a women's ball. The average men's team with a men's ball shoots over 45%. If they play with the men's ball in the WNBA, that percentage will be in the 35, 33 to 37% range, something like that. And a
Yeah.
lot of those threes that go in, that you see that go like that, those shots aren't going in.
Yeah.
Those shots aren't going in. Like it's even didn't they do when they did the 3-point contest with Sabrina and Steph?
Yeah.
Sabrina had a women's ball.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't want to hear that she's a shooter like Steph, like she's shooting with a women's ball. You can shoot from the same line all day. Give her a man's ball. See how many she makes. She might make a bunch, but she's not going to make as many as she made. Because, you watch the ball in women's ball, it goes bounce, 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 and then it
Yeah.
falls in. It's like, that's a man's ball. That's not going in. And they ignore that. And I think that there's a massive gap of talent. But yeah, if you want lifetime benefits,
Hmm.
you better start producing some profit. Like, you played 3 years in the WNBA. I get lifetime benefits. Are you crazy? Like, It's like they live in this land of delusion. Now, do I think they should get money off their jerseys if they don't get it? Yeah,
Yeah.
you should get a percentage of your jersey sales. Absolutely. And they say they don't get it. Kelsey Plum says she doesn't get it, but I'd be damned if Caitlin Clark didn't get money off her jersey sales. You're not
Oh
going to
yeah.
tell me. You're not telling me that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese weren't collecting checks off their jersey
Oh
sales.
yeah,
No way.
exactly.
No way. No way.
Especially Caitlin Clark jersey was number one. You know what? Angel Reese was what down there. She in her jersey sale
Two.
was like in the top five, number two. So I mean, yeah, you got it.
Reese was two. Reese was
Yeah.
two.
So therefore, I mean, you look at that. I mean, and then you know, I also think that even though they have this, they got in the last CBA they wanted the maternity leave in there, and I think going this going through the strike way is definitely is going to hurt them because I've seen it one time before in the NFL where if you strike, you got to get everybody to strike with you, and if
80, I
everybody,
was 87.
yeah, and
Yeah.
if you
They had
don't get
Savs.
everybody, yeah, if you don't get everybody to strike with you, especially like say for instance, you don't get Caleb Clark to strike, you don't get Enrique to strike, you don't get some of these other players to strike, then guess what's they're gonna leave you? What you gonna do? You're not gonna walk away just to play on rival. You're not gonna walk away just to go overseas. You're gonna come right back to the WNBA. You're gonna take whatever deal that they lay out for you and make it work. And then you probably gonna come to the table 3 years after once the new CBA kick in and say, okay, hey, how? Because then you could look at the product in a 3 year span and say, okay, now y'all starting to generate more revenue here. And you hit on something real quick, a few minutes ago about the expansion. I think it's the wrong time to bring another team in the league.
Absolutely.
I think they should have just work out this new deal, take that money, and build on it in the next 3 years. Then add, if you wanted to add a team, then add a team to the league. But then you got a team coming this year. Then you're trying to bring
more, right?
two more teams
Two more.
after that. And
Crazy.
then you got Patrick Mahomes. He wants to get in on the action.
He must like losing money.
And I was like, and I'll say, okay, well, if Patrick Mahomes trying to get in on the deal, and most likely he's going to get a team in Kansas City because they're going to look because he's one of the most popular quarterbacks in the league right now. And then you got to think about it. He wants on that Caitlin Clark train too. So he's like, you know what? Hey, Caitlin Clark making no money like that? Okay, let me get a team.
He's brainwashed. He's been brainwashed.
So therefore, it's like the league is being stretched too thin instead of just say, for instance, okay, if you're gonna do a team this year, just do this team this year. Bring a new team in, then see how it goes. Then when you look at it 3 years, because by that time Juju will be coming out. Then you could add a team to that mix right there. Now don't try to add it now, all these teams now, and then you're gonna deplete the money that you already got and hoping you generate it back and it'll be stretched so thin, then you be like, y'all back to square one all over again. It doesn't make sense.
Think about this. Think about this. They're gonna get $200 million a year, right, from this new TV money because it's $2.2 billion over 11 years or whatever it is. They're gonna get $200 million a year. You're at a team. You're adding two more next year, from what I know, either next year or the year after. So you've now added 3 teams. What does that mean? You got 36 more players.
Mm-hmm.
I found out in the last couple of days that they have 12-man rosters, not 15. I thought they had 15 like the NBA. They only got 12, which is crazy in itself because if you have injuries, you don't have players to fill in the spots. And you do these weird contracts that they did, with these players. But so you have 36 more players. What does that mean? It means you now have to play more games.
Mm-hmm.
They expanded to 44 games. So what's the next expansion with 2 more teams? 50? 52 games? And if they get to 20 teams, now we're at 60 some odd games. So that 200 million that you got now for 11 years, it ain't changing.
Nope.
That's your number. So what you've now done is you're going to crush that number Expenses are through the roof. The only player drawing eyes is still the same player that was drawing eyes this year.
Yep.
And I'm gonna keep it a buck. We'll see what happens with Juju Watkins. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. And I think one of the biggest issues that people, it came up in one of the comments here where they said these players played at big time programs. That is where
Hmm.
Caitlin Clark hit the number, is because she didn't play the big time program. She didn't play at UConn where she's surrounded by 10 McDonald's All Americans. She played at Iowa where she was the McDonald's All American. She
Yeah.
was the reason. It wasn't like Breonna Stewart. That's why whenever they say Breonna Stewart had 4 titles, I don't give a shit. She played with multiple national players of the year at the
Hmm.
same damn time. Don't tell me how great she was. Yes, she was a very, very good, great, I'll even say a great college basketball player. It's real easy to be great when you play with 10 McDonald's All Americans. It just is. Talent is talent. They had it. Iowa didn't.
Yeah.
Gabby Marshall wouldn't have made the UConn team.
Hmm.
Kate Martin wouldn't have made the UConn team. Like,
Right.
that's where we are. Stolke might have made the UConn team. Like that. This is so when they speak of it, Paige Becker's right now. Like, does she move the needle for anyone? No. And they're gonna find out, no matter how hard ESPN wants to push this UConn USC game next month or this month now,
Hmm.
how many viewers will it really do? And what you also have now is you have Juju who plays in LA.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. They couldn't sell out their building for shit. It was a quarter full the whole season. And she's in a metropolitan area of 20 million. Nobody cares. If you saw last week, there were like 8 different events going on at the same time as either the World Series
Mm.
or the Mets Dodgers. It was one of the two. You had a
Yeah.
Lakers game. It was the World Series. The Lakers were playing. There was a soccer game. There were multiple concerts. There was events all over. There was a football game. There were events all over the city. And you think anyone's going to USC women's basketball if that's happening? No.
No.
And on top of that, Iowa's a special place. I've never been, but clearly it's a very loyal place. And even with all that loyalty, did Caitlin Clark draw 18 million people to one game this year? No, no, because women's college basketball is far more exciting and
Yeah.
enjoyable than the WNBA. She brought a lot of people, but she didn't bring 18 million. I mean, she had regular season games with 3.5 million viewers
Yeah.
at Iowa, and they follow her. Who's following Paige? Who followed Maya Moore? Who followed
Yeah.
all these? Nobody. Nobody cared. And I don't think anyone's going to care about Juju out of LA. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but people are ignoring the fact that Iowa doesn't have a professional sports team. So all they're doing is watching Iowa or Iowa State. And Caitlin Clark was special. Like, there's something to be said for just being special.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the things that she did have on her side is that level of special. Now, this girl who's at Notre Dame, Hidalgo, if she's a freshman, if she can develop that 26-footer, you know, I don't think she can. People might watch, but I think the Page fans or UConn fans who
Mm.
have been watching the
That's a great
WNBA,
point
so
right
don't care.
there.
Yeah, they won't. I agree. I
Yeah.
completely agree. They're already watching. Like, and Caitlin, it's like, here. This is where people. Caitlin drew men. Caitlin drew men. You're watching this crap. I'm watching this crap. I'm watching because of her. Because if she
Yeah.
wasn't playing, I wouldn't have turned it
That,
on this season. Like, and
that's the same.
I
That's
wouldn't
just
have.
the
I wouldn't
same
have
thing.
cared.
Adrian Ross she told me, she said Caitlin brought her back to the W. Caitlin brought me back to the W. I was a huge WNBA fan when they first started out. You know, the Houston
Mhm.
Comets was the team. You know,
Yeah,
before Cheryl Swoops became the grumpy version of
crazy
Cheryl Swoops right now. I
bitters.
used
Yeah,
to, I was a huge fan of hers. I was a huge fan of Tina
I love
Thompson.
I loved Cheryl Swoops back then. Are you kidding? I love her.
Yeah, but now I dabbled in it. Excuse me. I dabbled in and out of it throughout the years, and then I just started, and I was like, man, let me start get back into college basketball. Let me see what it's like again. And I started watching the men. I started watching the Culver twins from Miami.
Cavender twins? Yeah. The
Yeah,
Cavender twins.
and I start hearing about Caitlin Clark, how phenomenal she is, and I would listen to Dan Patrick talk about it. I was like, man, let me find out who this girl is. Then I start watching her and watching her game. I'm like, dang, she is excited. And then I started getting into it, and then I didn't even know who, I didn't know who LSU was with Angel Reese, because one of the young Flage Johnson, she's from my hometown, Savannah, Georgia. So
She's really good.
yeah,
She's really good.
So I resonate with her. I was like, okay, let me, she's from there. Let me follow her. And my brother-in-law, he's a huge South Carolina fan. So I knew about South Carolina. Everybody talk about South Carolina around these neck of the woods up here in the Carolina. So, and I was like, you got to think, South Carolina's still loaded. How much, UConn going to do with Paige? She's going, like Mike just said, that she's going to bring her own. Her fans is already there in the W. It's not like she's playing at Notre Dame. It's not like she's playing like some other school, where she has to carry the whole burden of being that person like Caitlin did at Iowa. So it's going to be interesting. So the buzz might not be the same. I think they're going to put so much pressure on Paige to try to keep, so she could try to make her keep up with Caitlin, and it's going to be not fair to her. Allow her to just coast in the league and just be her, instead of trying to push this narrative or push her to like, oh, we want her to, dominate like Caitlin, Caitlin, or outshine Caitlin and stuff. And it's going to hurt her as a person and her growth. You know what I'm saying? I think she's a decent basketball player, you know what I'm saying, barring the injuries that she already had, and getting back into playing shape. So allow her to be. And I don't know if she's going to have the same impact as Caitlin is. I just don't think the pressure is going to be too enormous for her or Juju to carry at the end of the day.
Juju can't carry it. The game doesn't. I mean, I don't think either of them can carry it. The game doesn't match. It's the game. It's their skill, and it's her skill, and that's the problem. People think that this is something that's just going to continue to carry over, and while they may do decently, and they're going to still get decent numbers in the Final Four.
Yeah,
they're not going to draw 18 million people in the Final Four. No way in hell. They'll draw the normal 7, 8, 9, 10, as they've done for the last 20 years before Caitlin Clark. But their games don't translate. Juju Watkins can't shoot. She shot 40%, man, from the field. And she's 6'2", and she plays much closer to the basket. Yeah, she shoots some threes. She's not a good three-point shooter. So, will she get better? Yeah, I'm sure she'll get better. But Paige is a mid-range player. She's not shooting from 25, 30 feet out. She damn sure doesn't pass like Caitlin Clark. People ignore that component of Caitlin Clark's game. Caitlin Clark's passing is elite. It's the best passing I've ever seen in women's basketball. She makes passes that LeBron James makes, comparable for the men. That's the type of passing that she does. She sees stuff that no one else can do, and she does things they can't do. If she played with dudes doing that, she'd have her 20 assists a game. She'd have 20 assists a game, because these women sometimes initially couldn't catch the pass. Can you imagine if LeBron James was passing the ball to these ladies? He'd have 15 turnovers a game because they drop everything. And that's a big issue that exists. So when people say, oh, Caitlin's got 5.5 turnovers, yeah, because her teammates can't catch. And that is not her fault.
Exactly.
Does she have to adjust what she's doing? I guess maybe. But then if she's why did the Iowa women catch the ball, though? because
Exactly.
they were used to it. They got accustomed to it, and you saw as the year went on, they got more accustomed to it. But Caitlin Clark is going to take chances because that's who she is. That's how she plays. You can't stop her from playing that. If you stop her from doing that, you cripple her game. But her passing is next level of elite for
Oh yeah.
women's basketball. And people ignore. Like I watch her pass, I'm like, oh my god, how'd she make that pass? Yeah, and Mike says Paige is single covered every game. Caitlin Clark did this being double teamed from 75 feet from the rim.
Exactly.
I mean, there's games, and I think this is where Caitlin has to get better as well, is she has to recognize that when she's on offense and she doesn't have the ball, she has to move. She
Yeah.
can't stand still 30 feet from the rim. She cannot do that. While she's drawing a defender way out who's not leaving her, you can't just stand there. You have to move without the ball. You have to make yourself open. You have to do something. If you just stand there, they're winning because they're going 4-on-4 without you. And I would take my chances with that all day long if I'm the other team. So
And
yeah.
also, I think a lot of that came from her frustration with Coach Sides, the way Coach Sides was making her stand in the corner. So she got kind of like custom doing it and not moving around. Because if you look, we all watched her in Iowa. She always moved around, and then Coach Sides was trying to break her habit so bad, and it's kind of like, okay, should I not? And then you got in the second half of the season, it was like, okay, she was able to do a little bit, play her game a little bit better, but then it was still some of them tendencies down the stretch of the season that came back where they was losing games. So
Yeah.
I agree with you. She definitely has to. I think Stephanie White will help her with that a little bit more.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Say, hey, I want you to be yourself. Move around. Move without the ball, whatever the case may be, because she's going to command so much of the offense. It's going like, who would have thought Kelsey Mitchell and her would have been the best backcourt in the league this year? The best scoring backcourt in the league in the second half of the season.
I mean, if you ask me honestly, what my opinion was, I thought if she had the proper coach, she would have averaged 25 a game this year, Caitlin Clark. And so if that would have happened, then yeah, I could have seen it because Kelsey Mitchell can score.
Yeah.
That's what Kelsey Mitchell does. She scores. I mean, she doesn't do a whole lot else, but she can score.
Oh yeah.
And so if you have that, and then you get Caitlin going for 25, then yeah, I could have seen it. But early on, the way it looked, it was like Kelsey Mitchell couldn't stand her early on. It looked like she was jealous. Christy Sides was handcuffing her. And yeah, at that point, you're like, what are they doing to this girl? Like, what are they doing? Do they not understand what they have? Like, this is a special player. And I mean, you know the drill. I mean, the only person that ever stopped Michael Jordan from scoring was Dean Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, you by putting him on the bench and not, and all those different things. But I think they're going to be a scary team next year. It would not shock me if they won over 30 games.
Yeah.
It would not shock me if they were 35-9. Like I wouldn't be surprised at all because they're
Yeah.
going to get someone else to add to that team, and you're going to see a much better defensive team, I think.
Yeah.
Because if you watch them play this year, they played man all year. They never switched to anything else.
Yeah.
Like I mean, my God, I'm a Miami Heat fan. The Miami Heat plays zone defense more than anybody. And the Miami Heat are known to be a defensive team, but you have to adjust to your players.
Yeah.
Tyler Hero can't guard a parked car. Duncan Robinson can't guard a parked car. Like, there are so many guys on that team that can't defend. You have to protect them and put them in a zone.
Yeah. You're right.
If so those are the things that I think that I was shocked that Christy Sides didn't fix as the season went on, but it shows that she's incompetent. And then I expect that Stephanie White will definitely, I'm sure she noticed.
Yeah. I'm sure
know.
she'll. It is. I mean, especially she knows defense, she knows offense, and you gotta. And I said this also. I think she had, for her calling games in the Big Ten and calling a lot of Caitlin games and had conversation with Caitlin, I'm sure she had some conversation with Lisa Bluder as well. You
I'm
know,
sure.
so
I'm
it's. I
sure.
mean, that's why I feel like because
Mm.
when I heard that Lisa Blue was in the mix, and then I had got word that said, well, they did kind of like offer her, talk to her, but she declined. And I said,
Yeah.
well, I think she was okay with knowing that Stephanie White would have been able to come and coach Caitlin, you know, where she didn't have to like been pressured to come back into coaching out of retirement. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the most important part right there, to give Caitlin somebody she's familiar with, that knows her game, that has played the game, been around the organization. You don't want somebody that's just come on the outside, like say for this that they hired Tyler Marsh. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Caitlin don't know nothing about him from Adam to Eve, you know what I'm saying? So therefore, you know, if she's not gonna have that chemistry, then you'll be right back in the same situation, you know.
Yeah. No,
So
he definitely wouldn't have been the guy to hire. No way.
yeah.
No way.
So
No way.
but Rudy, like I said, man, this is my first time interacting with you. Like I said, I watch your channel a lot. I, you know, try to come in on your lives, and you know, y'all have great content going on. I appreciate your analysis, your thinking of the game, and everything like that. Um, and I do love when you do your Rudy's rants. They be hey, sometimes you need one of them throughout the week.
I'm a passionate individual. I have very, very strong opinions. Um, it's one of those things where, I have covered high school. I covered high school sports for 17 years. I covered the University of Miami for over 10. I started a website called InsideTheU.com with two partners. I no longer am part of it, but I founded that site. It's on 24/7 Sports now. Um, I love sports. I but I do have strong opinions. I mean, people are this society we live in now is just so damn sensitive. I can't stomach it at times, and let it. People need to learn to be accepting of opinions and however strong they are. I mean, if you don't like it, you can always rebuttal. You give me a rebuttal, and I'm cool with that. I can go back and forth. What I get tired of is the commentary when people put comments that just basically insult you. Like that's like
Yeah,
grow up, bro. Like if you have a if you disagree with me, you can disagree with me. But when you come, I'm bald. I'm 270 pounds, 260 pounds. Like what? I'm not 500 pounds. Like some people seem to think I am. I don't know why they think that, but like 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 you're fat, you're bald, you never played. No, I played competitive sports all the way through high school. I played high school football. I was 190, 180 in high school. Like it's just silliness where and then the other term is they call you like you're a casual fan. Like, no, I'm not. I'm a rabid fan.
yeah,
And I watched games differently than most people. Like I can watch a game, like I think we talked about before we got on here, the Miami Hurricanes. Last
mm-hmm.
week, Miami looked like trash versus
Oh
Florida State.
yeah,
But I'm being
definitely,
called I'm a moron because I'm not sucking them off and I'm actually constructively criticizing what I saw. Even
exactly.
today, the first 35 minutes, they were awful. But they only want to see, oh, they were great. No, you give 31 points to Duke, who hadn't scored 30 points in the game all season against a
Right.
Power Five team. Yeah, so you or Power Four now. So like I watch games differently. I see because I coached high school football. I've
Yeah.
coached travel basketball for 17 and under. I've seen the best high school players in America who are in the NBA, and my knowledge is there just because I can't dunk. I mean, I can dunk a
Yeah.
donut. so
Have you ever
it's just
have you
like,
ever had a conversation with Alex Dono from Locked On Kings?
oh, Alex Dono. Yeah, he's from
Yeah.
down. I know who he is. I've never met him personally. I mean, we've chatted on Facebook. Yeah,
Okay.
he's been in sports radio down here for a long time.
Yeah.
He's been in sports radio for a long time.
Well, I used to I haven't did it this season yet because like I said I just started working nights, so it throw my whole scheduling off. I usually do my Miami Hurricanes podcast on Tuesday nights, but it's been hard. And I had him on a couple of times. I like talking to him, and he always shows up for me anytime I need him. So now I have another
Mhm.
Kings fan. So therefore, when I probably one Saturday I might do a live and we just talk about the
Yeah,
game through the whole game.
yeah. I'm with it. I'm with it. I am definitely with it. I mean, if I'm not, I'll be at the game against Wake Forest. Obviously, they have next week at Georgia Tech. They better not go to sleep.
Yeah.
We know what Georgia Tech has done in the past. And then they have Syracuse, last game of the year in Syracuse. They better not fuck around because they will find out if they do that. Because Syracuse is going to walk into that game 9-2. Because Syracuse today was down 24-3 to Virginia Tech and came back and won that game. Wow. Syracuse is good. Syracuse lost. It's funny. Syracuse lost to Stanford. How? I don't know. And they lost to Pitt last week because McCord threw 5 picks, 3 pick sixes in the first half. But they're a good squad. And people, it's gonna be a good game. They better be ready to play. So can't look like they did today in the first half. That's for sure.
Oh no, definitely. I was like, man, I was about to pull my hair out. I said, man, y'all need to come on now. Y'all need to get it together.
Yeah.
So I think one thing I think that sometimes they press too hard. They press too much. Cam presses a lot instead of just allow the game to come to him naturally. You don't have to press.
You know when he lets it come naturally? When they're down.
Right?
When they're down. That's when he relaxes. And it's like, okay, it's time to go to work.
Exactly. Like, okay, y'all ain't got enough points for the night. So, let everybody know where they can find you at, my friend.
Everyone, if you don't know, if you've not been to my site before, our page before, it's Come On Now, the podcast on YouTube. I also have a page for Rudy's Rant separately from the Come On Now, the podcast page. It's at Rudy's Rant. I'm doing other work on that one, more reaction type videos. I will drop some rants in there eventually, but right now I'm doing more reaction videos. But yeah, it's Come On Now, the podcast on YouTube and Rudy's Rant. And please check us out if you haven't done so already. I appreciate y'all.
All right, guys. Thank y'all for joining me. And Rudy, I appreciate you coming on. We'll probably be talking more behind the scenes a little bit and everything like that. But thank you for taking your time out on this Kane Saturday to drop in with me. And
my pleasure.
So I'm about to watch the rest of this boring Louisville and Clemson's game. And
what's that score? Is it
10-7 Louisville? They just scored.
People think Louisville's not that good. Louisville's really good. They just lost a bunch of one-score games.
Yeah.
It's like imagine if you're gonna get me going on this crap of the SEC. SEC team can have 4 losses and be ranked in the top 25. ACC team has 2 losses. They're nowhere to be found.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. Pittsburgh's undefeated and they're ranked 18th. It's crazy.
The bias is real.
It is.
All right. Well, until next time, y'all take it easy.
All right.
Hey, so amazing. You see how they playing? Live wire, it's all about sports and entertainment. You don't want to miss it, so official like you never seen. Keep it going till the whistle blowing from the referee. Everything from highlights and stats. You know that we gotta run it back, whether on the field or the court. You know that this is where it's at. Subscribe, no delaying. This is Live Wire, sports and entertainment. Let's go.